you doing? This is Shiraz on Rewriting Reality. We have got another wonderful show coming up for you. My guest is Talia Dashow, who is a procrastination coach. So Talia helps people use creativity to expand possibility. She has been coaching since 2001, helping people become more productive, procrastinate less, and feel more joy. Talia also runs Creativity Club, a Zoom room where you can play creativity games with others to become a more flexible thinker and strengthen your creative confidence. Talia's earned a BA in English at UC Berkeley, a certificate as a mediator, and a certificate to facilitate, get this, Lego Serious Play. I am very curious to find out what Lego Serious Play is. So let's bring up Talia. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am wonderful. So I like that intro. And okay, we got to start before you even tell us about yourself. What the hell is Lego Serious Play?
Lego Serious Play was something that Lego Corporation developed when they realized that their corporate meetings were not at all creative, even though they produced a toy that was very creative. And so they hired some really smart people to study the brain and the hands and how they all work together, and learned how to use that hand-brain connection to think with your hands. And then once you've built something, to listen with your eyes, to help people understand each other. So people build metaphors and ideas out of Legos, not just like spaceships, but this is what I think we need to be able to communicate better kinds of things. And holding your idea in your model means you can take it out of your head. You don't have to sit there and think, okay, this is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm going to say. Well, you have space to listen while you are holding your ideas in your model. So there's a lot that's really quite brilliant about their methodology.
Okay, so Lego can be used for more than just spaceships.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is news to me. All right, so Talia, you
Yes.
are a procrastination coach. I can think of a couple people that could use that, like everyone I know.
Yeah,
So
it's part of the human condition, I think.
okay. So how did you get into that exactly?
Well, I'm a procrastinator. I studied it because I've had to cope with it. When I was in college, I would not clean my apartment until something worse came along to do. And so during finals week, when I was supposed to be studying for finals, I would finally clean. And I kind of realized that was not sustainable. So I started doing a lot of studying about, like, what do people talk about for, like, how do other people deal with procrastination. And I got advice like, take a large project and break it up into small steps. And I was like, great, now I've got a list of small steps that I'm not doing. Or
Right.
they would say, well, just do the hardest thing first, and then everything else will be easier after that. And I'm like, am I the only person who's so broken that I can't do that hard thing? And
It's the eat that frog concept, right?
exactly, Brian Tracy.
Okay.
So yeah, I did a lot of research. I didn't find a lot of answers until I started looking inside at the emotional underpinnings around what is it that is getting in the way of my getting stuff done.
Mhm.
Then I started finding answers. I can
Okay.
keep going, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to
Oh,
ask
start.
any more questions.
So people are agreeing with you. All of that was crap advice for me. So
Yes.
okay. So if the advice that's supposed to work and is supposed to get results is not getting results, what do you do?
Well, in my experience, procrastination tends to fall under three major umbrellas. We've got perfectionism, resistance, and overwhelm. And perfectionism can look like, I can't get started on a thing until I have two more degrees, or until I know I can do it perfectly before I start.
Mm.
Or it could look like, I've got something 90% finished, but I can't actually finish it because then I'll have to admit that it's not perfect.
I'm
Resistance
not
is
guilty of that at all.
And believe me, I'm speaking from personal experience on just about everything here.
Mhm.
Like, this is comes from me, comes from my clients, a lot of it's from me.
Okay.
I mean, this is fairly universal, a lot of this. Re Resistance has one flavor of, "You can't make me, you're not the boss of me."
Mhm.
And then the other flavor is, "I don't wanna feel that feeling, and so I'm not even gonna think about doing that." Like, guilt falls under this. I feel guilty about having done or not done, so I'm not even gonna think about dealing with the thing 'cause I don't wanna feel that emotion.
Okay.
And then overwhelm is sort of partly I have too much to do, or I have a lot of things to fit into my time, but it's also I have so many feelings about everything that's going on. I can't cope with the amount of feeling. I use taxes as an example of this. Like,
Mm.
I procrastinate on doing my taxes because I'm a little bit ashamed of my receipts organization skills. I just have an envelope and I stuff
Yeah.
them in the envelope. And like every time I get to tax time, I'm like, I really should do something more effective than this. I really should. It's not good enough. And then, am I getting the right information to my accountant? Why do I even have to spend all this time and energy working on it in the first place? You know, what if I wish other people paid more of their share of taxes? Why is it all falling on me? You know, it's like all these different levels of feeling. And when you have just this huge amount of feeling all piling up like this, no wonder nobody wants to do it, right? That's a
Oh, no.
huge amount to
I
try
get
to carry along with you when you're trying to get something done. So
Yeah.
just working
I
through some of those can really help.
I I I worked around the tax one myself, just because that envelope you're talking about, I take everything, throw it in the envelope, and just give it to my accountant. He charges me extra because I haven't done anything, but that works for me. Uh,
Right.
okay, so these are the 3 big things. So on your journey, when you just found nothing was working, how did you get to nothing's working to knowing this is what you had to do?
For me, it involved a lot of therapy, a lot of coaching, a lot of trial and error, a lot of um, seeing what worked, a lot of changing the stories in my head about what was how things were supposed to be. I I was trying to make a present one time for my husband. uh, he had created he's an artist and make for computer games, and he had created a character for a computer game, and I was trying to turn it into a stuffed doll. And the more I worked on it, the more I had to admit that it was just not quite looking like his original. Like it looked like it was 10 years older than
Okay.
he had designed it. And I almost didn't finish it because I was like, I want this to be perfect, and it's not. And I don't see a path from where I am to making it perfect.
Mm,
And at some point, I decided that done was better than perfect, that having something to hand him on his birthday would be better than saying, well, I had this idea and I almost did it, but
yeah,
right. So,
yes.
and sort of having to figure out how to let go of that idea of it has to be perfect for me to be acceptable. It has to be perfect for the gift to be acceptable. Like, understand if there was room to forgive myself for being human and for being imperfect, and that there's still value and goodness and connection, and love. All of that is still there, even if the thing itself is not perfect.
Okay. Ooh. So, see, and here's the thing, you're saying it, it makes logical sense. My brain's like, "She's saying it doesn't have to be perfect. Don't believe her." It's a trap. It's a trap. So, and I'm sure there are other people that they have that thought process going.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
what you're saying makes perfect sense, it's completely reasonable, but what
Someone else.
happens yeah, what happens when your brain is saying, "No, no," like
Yeah, well, that is a challenge, right? I mean, I had a conversation with my mom once where I was telling her about all the ways I was an imposter, and she's like, "Well, sweetie, everybody feels like that. Doctors feel like they're an imposter." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I know. That's, but I actually am."
Okay.
Right? Like somehow
Yeah.
I'm more special than anybody else.
Mhm.
Yeah, so sometimes it can take some practice to figure out how to accept our humanity and forgive ourselves for being imperfect human beings. And I find having a coach helps me with that. I imagine the kind of coaching that you do would help a lot with that kind of stuck in that story. Um, there's different. I mean,
Yeah.
I also help people with changing their stories with my clients as well. So there's a lot of just sort of like even just noticing that that's the story that I've got in my head can help start to shift it.
Okay. Yeah. The work I do can help break them through the reason why they're not doing the procrastination, but it doesn't include getting them to actually then take the steps and build that. Like, so they're like, "Oh, that's why I didn't do it. Okay, and I can let that go." But then I've had it where people are just like, "Well, now I know I can do it," but I'm like, "Are you doing it?" "No, but I know I can do it." Like, it's like, start doing it. Like, come on.
Right, right. Well, things what I've learned is that people do not function in straight lines. Like the
Mm,
logic might work in a straight line, but people don't work in a straight line.
yeah.
And sometimes there's layers of things to get through, and sometimes there's it's a time issue. Like it just takes time for things to sort of sink in and to
Mhm.
understand. Uh, like the new understanding doesn't always gel right away.
Okay.
So yeah, um, it can take some time for the new ideas to sort of plant themselves and start to bloom.
Okay. All right. And that's something you help with in your coaching program?
I do, I do. I Yep.
Okay. So here's the thing. When I was reading your bio and it talks a lot about creativity. And when I think of procrastination, I don't think, oh, I've got to be creative. I think I just got to get shit done.
Right.
So how do you bring creativity into your coaching?
I find that creativity is a great antidote to perfectionism. That it's really hard to hold on to. It has to be perfect before I can start, and also, what happens if I try this?
Okay.
They're two opposed mindsets. And so the more time people can spend in the what happens if I try this? And I tried a thing and it was imperfect and it was okay. I mean, that's one of the values of the creativity club that I run. It gives people a place to try something imperfectly, take a risk in a safe space, and see what happens, and discover that you can survive saying something that feels a little stupid or feels silly or not well thought out, and it's okay because everybody's doing that at the same time, and we're all just playing around and exploring and seeing what happens. And the more you can do that in a safe space, it strengthens that ability to do it in places where it feels like the stakes are higher.
Okay. So we have another perfectionist out there, but I can see how having 6 kids can create overwhelm.
Yes, indeed. I'm overwhelmed with one.
Yes, and also it's a trap is being set in many of our heads. So, okay, someone wants to know more about the Creativity Club.
Okay. Creativity Club is a free group that meets on Thursdays. It's on my website. If you go to talia-coaching.com, you can find it there. Uh, and it gives you a chance to play creativity games. It's one game after another. We just play and have fun. And we don't talk about all the benefits of being creative, all the ways it can help you be more flexible and more resilient and better problem solver and more confident and all of these things. We just play. We just have a lot of fun. I
Okay,
also
but
run I'm sorry?
okay, you said we just play. Can
Yeah.
you give me an example of play?
Okay. You know, one of the games we play is a four-letter word sentence. And you know how people will take the word fear and say it actually means false evidence appearing real, that
Yep.
kind of thing. So we take a four-letter word and we turn it into a four-word sentence with each word starting with one of the letters. And Sometimes the sentences are very like straightforward, and like if the word were time, you could have the example be, "This is my example." There's a complete sentence. It's a really boring sentence, but it absolutely fits the criteria. But you could also make a sentence that's something like, uh, "Triceratops infers many expletives."
Okay.
It becomes a really, like, interesting, I made that up off the top of my head, but it's like, "Whoa, that's kind of interesting." I'm curious, I wanna learn more about that. So, I'd love to play it with you right now, and maybe your,
Okay.
listeners as
Okay.
well, if you'd like. We could pick
Fine.
a letter word.
Okay.
Um,
Four-letter word. Okay, actually, let's in the chat throw a four-letter word in.
a nice four-letter word.
Well, we don't care on this show. But a four-letter word.
Okay, any four-letter word. When I do it at Creativity Club, I try to stay away from the swearing, but,
Okay. And that's fine.
yeah.
I'm just saying you don't have to worry on this particular show.
Okay, okay.
And now they're just being quiet. Now they're not
Right.
putting anything in
Well,
there.
in that case, let me just mention that I also run a creativity gym, which is a paid subscription, but that one we do a game and then we debrief. We dig in. And what did you learn? What did your inner critic say? What were the lessons? How did you expand your thinking? How can you apply that outside of this and in your work or your home? So there's a lot more in-depth learning going on in that one.
Got it. So is the Creative Gym the one that's on your site?
They're both on my site.
Okay, cool.
How about we use the word show?
Okay, you've already said time though. I don't want to use one you've already given us.
Okay.
Okay, show. We'll go with show.
Go with show. So I would encourage everybody if people listening, and Shiraz, and I'll do it too, to come up with a four-word sentence using the letters in the word show.
Send help on weekends.
There you go.
Yeah. So do I just like keep going and make one after the other, or do I just have to come up with one?
Serpents hear owls widely.
Serpents hear owls widely. Okay. And if you want to play along, throw it in the chat. Serpents hear owls widely.
This is the thing. You can't do this wrong.
Okay.
That's the magic of Creativity Club and Creativity Gyms. You can't do it wrong. Whatever you come up with is fine. It's perfect. There's no right or wrong answer. So everything you come up with is good. It doesn't have to have a subject and verb. It doesn't have to have amazing imagery. It doesn't have to have anything.
Okay, see, I'm a writer and grammar is important. So I'm like, it's got to have a verb.
My test sentences tend to be complete sentences, but they're not always. Sometimes they end up being just imagery. And
okay, so now it's more of like a poem than like a
sometimes,
sentence. Okay, Shiraz has only wisdom. There we go.
There you go. Okay, mic drop. We're done.
Rosemary said, "See how others work."
Nice.
There we go. Look, they're playing along at home now.
Excellent.
Okay, and so this is fun. And so now what's going on when I do this? How is this? Is it stimulating my brain? Is it what's going on?
Well, yeah, it is. It helps with expansive thinking, because you can start thinking about what else is possible. Okay. What other words could go into a sentence? What other words can I think of that start with these letters that I could put together? How else could we make this work? And so it sort of helps you with the expanding possibility, expanding your thoughts, and that it helps with flexibility and resilience, because there isn't really one right answer. So have you seen the job requirements saying you must be comfortable with ambiguity? There's a lot of ambiguity when there's no right answer. So here's a chance to play with that and see what you can come up with, knowing that everybody else's answers are equally valid as yours, and that there isn't a right way, but there's also no wrong way. So it can help with that flexibility, the comfort with ambiguity, expansive thinking, which can help then with problem solving and brainstorming, and helps with people feeling less stuck because there's more possibility. You're not just stuck with one story. There's more. It helps open up that possibility to have more stories.
Okay.
It's not always a direct link,
Mhm.
but it's a link.
I also see where I've in networking events I've gone to, people are saying, "Well, I have the SaaS system or I have the whatever system." And this sounds like a way to build that muscle to name stuff in your business and just come up with things. Like it
Probably.
okay. Oh, there was a compliment to Rosemary for her see how others work. I'm questioning this send hors d'oeuvres or wine. I think that's just what she wants right now.
It's only noon here. It feels a little early for wine, but
Okay.
it might just be me.
Okay. I know people that 8 o'clock is time for wines. This isn't wine, just so you know. Okay. All right. So, can you give me an example of someone that's come to you that's been having these issues with procrastination and just that what happened to them, the transformation, the journey you took them on?
I had a client who was procrastinating so much that she was afraid she was going to get fired from her job.
Mhm.
It was just not
Okay.
getting her
It's a
work
problem. Yes.
done. Problem. And so we started exploring. We did one-on-one coaching together, and we started exploring what the stories were in her head around why, like, she hadn't gotten onboarding, but she also hadn't asked for onboarding. So what was the story about that? And then sort of digging in more into like what was going on for her. And we discovered that she has an inner teenager who is still fighting in her 60s to keep her safe in the same way she was fighting to keep herself safe when she was a teenager.
Oh, okay.
And that she fights her bosses, she fights herself, she fights everybody to prove that she is okay the way she is and that she doesn't have to change for anybody and that she's okay. And once we started celebrating this part of her, the one that was really saying you're not the boss of me and you can't make me, and the resistance part, once we started celebrating and appreciating and honoring that part of her, it relaxed a lot.
Hmm.
She started to realize that she didn't have to fight so much, that she was actually safer than she realized, and she didn't have to be so combative all the time. And, and it allowed more space. And then my client ended up uh, choosing to leave that job because she got another job that was better.
Okay. So that's really creative as opposed to just doing better in the job. Let's just go someplace
Right.
better.
She was like, This is not working. This is not a good fit for me, and it's not getting any better. But there's this other job that would be better." And so she went for that one, and she's so much happier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the three big ways we procrastinate. In your experience, which is there one that's the biggest that most people are lying in, or is it just the three sort of average out?
I kind of feel like they interact with each other.
Okay.
That I separate them into three in order to talk about the different aspects.
Mhm.
But perfectionism leads to feeling overwhelmed, and being overwhelmed leads to perfectionism, and it leads to resistance, and it's like they all kind of tie together.
Okay.
I think probably if I were going to say something that underlies all of it would be the story that what other people think of us is a life or death situation. Because,
Whoa.
yeah,
Okay.
no, because I think this is where a lot of perfectionism comes from, a lot of overwhelm comes from, a lot of resistance comes from, is that feeling. Because honestly, we used to be living in small tribes, and the only way we stayed alive was by being part of a small tribe.
Yeah.
And if we got kicked out of the tribe, we're going to die hungry and alone and mauled by bears. So we needed to have a way to make sure the group wasn't going to kick us out, so that
Okay.
what do other people think of me muscle got really well developed. because this was a survival issue. It was a life or death issue. And it still feels that way viscerally inside of us in situations that are no longer life and death situations.
Okay.
So we still have that feeling of, if I mess up this presentation, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe and die hungry and alone and mauled by bears. But we're not.
Why is it always bears?
You know, I live in California. The grizzlies lived here. I don't know. Maybe if I lived somewhere else, it would be lions or tigers or something. But
Well, if it's Canada, you'll get run over by a moose. So
I'm sure moose are equally as fierce.
no, I mean, they are, but the biggest the biggest problem with the moose that really got explained to me when I went camping is a moose will walk through your campsite, killing everyone in its path and not even realize it did anything. They're really big. Like, right? So
Yeah, and bears are just out for the food.
yeah. Okay, so people are going to get mauled by bears. I'm worried about the moose, and
Right.
and my brain is just going, "What the hell?" And I'm like, it's a feeling of I'm actually going to die.
I mean,
You're saying it, and the way you're saying it, it makes sense, but it still seems like over the top on some level here.
well, yes, that's why it's not helpful. It probably was helpful at some point in our evolutionary past.
Mm,
And at this point, there are so many groups that would take us in if we got kicked out. And it is so rare to actually get kicked out. And there are so few bears around left to maul people
mm.
that it actually is not a life and death situation. And it can still feel like that inside of ourselves. And so we react as though we were in a life or death situation.
Okay.
And then everything gets really like tense and scared and tight, and it's hard to think creatively and come up with other options because, oh my god, I'm going to die. So sort of acknowledging that this is part of the human condition and that we're all kind of like forgiving ourselves for being human and having these feelings and realizing that it's not a life and death situation can help open up more space.
Okay. Cool. And people are relating to this. All right. So I have a procrastination situation
Do you?
that I would like some help with.
Okay.
And it's funny because it's been hitting me yesterday and today, and so what it is, because it kind of fits into what you're saying, but at the same time it doesn't.
Okay.
I have a list of potential places to speak at, and basically what I have to do is go through the list and find out which ones actually align to what I want to talk about, fill out the speaker application form, and then I'm done.
Okay.
Okay. And so there's probably about 50. And I've done this. I've done this multiple times. But every time I've done it, it's long, tedious, and boring. So there's no overwhelm in it. It's just like, oh my God, again. And so I set that I put it on my calendar. I'm going to do this yesterday. And I kept finding other things to do all through yesterday. So I thought I'd do it this morning before I started. And then I thought I'd do it between on breaks between when I finished my appointments this morning and the show. And guess what?
Haven't even started yet.
I have not started.
Okay. Do you have to do it all in one sitting?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you think you could manage to do it for about 10 minutes?
See, I could say yes to that.
But you won't do it.
So I've opened it up multiple times, looked
Mhm.
at it, went, ugh, and then found something else to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the feelings you've got when you go, ugh? What is it?
It's because when I start going through the list, okay, so you're getting straight to it. There's disappointment because there's ones that look, oh, this looks interesting, and then I look and at the application form, like, oh, it's not for me, and then it's just like,
Mm,
okay, I felt like I've just wasted, even if it's like a minute, I've just wasted that time, and then I go to the next one, And when I find one that's right, I get excited, but it doesn't seem to outweigh the, oh, another one that doesn't match.
So what's your story there around do you have to have it are you supposed to have like perfect intuition all the time about what's going to be a good match?
No, I think I'm not supposed to have ugh moments in my life.
Oh,
Right.
okay. We kind of all do.
I know.
I guess I think I'm curious about that. Like
Mhm.
it seems like you could in those situations celebrate your power of discernment.
Okay.
You've only wasted a minute of your time discerning that this is not going to be a good fit, as opposed to applying and talking to people and then discovering it's not a good fit, or actually ending up speaking and having it be like feel like a waste of time. Your
Mhm.
discernment kicks in pretty early.
Okay.
So that's one way you could look at it,
So reframe it.
reframe it.
Okay.
Um, I'm also a little curious about that level of disappointment. That it sounds like it's a lot of disappointment for us.
I like it's not a lot to put in the moment, but if I'm going through a list of 100 and I know ahead of time because statistically I've done this several times, there's usually about 5 that match.
Okay,
So I know it's 95 disappointments for 5, right? So I'm like,
right.
I don't like those odds. Right?
Okay. Um, is it something that you need to do, or is it something that you could get somebody else to do?
I could get someone else to do it. I'd have to train them to know exactly what the talks are, the organizations that I match with. And yes, I could absolutely do that.
Does that seem like it's more trouble than it's worth?
It's one of those things. It's like it's a lot of trouble, but I know once the trouble's over, it's just now I'm just sailing and I don't have to do anything ever, which seems like a great payoff. But have I done it? No.
When you're faced with this kind of situation for other things where it feels like a lot of work for not a lot of payoff,
Mhm.
um, what keeps you going?
You know what just popped up in my mind is when I have to do it for someone else, I'll do it.
Huh.
Which you would think I would have that much conviction to get my own stuff done. But yeah, even if it's just someone said I need this done for this deadline and that arbitrary deadline's been put in there, then I'll get it done. Right. And technically there are deadlines on this because some of these gigs are going to be passing by. When I looked at that list, I already had to knock 2 off the list because they already passed.
Mm.
Right. And so that's just what's happening. But it's yeah, I feel like I need that sense of urgency or that feeling that I'm helping someone. Because for me, it just feels tedious.
I read a really interesting book about how the brain works
Mhm.
that talked about how certain tasks can feel really difficult because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of payoff for them, and that having a deadline can insert a level of adrenaline to the situations that gives you that extra push
Yeah.
to make it worth going, like gives you enough energy to accomplish the task. So you're not alone in this. This is a very common. It's kind of a lot of brains work this way. Something is just not a lot of fun to do. It feels tedious. It feels boring. Don't want to do it. It doesn't feel like a lot of payoff. Ugh. So
Yes.
um, one strategy is to uh, give yourself a deadline, or some sort of artificial, like it has to be done by this time,
Mhm.
or not artificial. As you said, some of the talks are passing. So you need to be on the list. If that happened to be one of the 5 that was good, then that would be super disappointing. I would think is that another way to do it would be to think about the goal.
Mhm.
What would you get out of going to one of these speaking engagements? And sort of holding on that up as it's worth it because of this.
Okay.
This is going to be so much more good than that other thing is tedious.
Mhm.
It's worth going through all of it.
Okay.
It's like being a gold miner. You have to pan through a lot of gravel before you find the gold nugget, but
Yes.
that's going to be worth a lot once you get it. So, is it worth doing all that panning to be able to find it?
It's interesting because when you phrase it that way, my brain went to another thing because I get almost like putting the money aspect in there, right? Yeah, because when I'm just thinking about it and then I'll get the gigs and I'll go talk, there's not that much, wow, because I'm just going to get talk. I'm just going to talk. But when you say, okay, well, this is my mind automatically went to investing where uh, angel investors and stuff they invest in 20 different things, knowing one or two is going to have the big payoff, and they just do it. They're like, I know all these things are going to fail, but then the payoff. And for some reason, my brain's like, oh, money. Wait. Now I'm a lot more interested. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, on the one hand, it can be fun to give a talk, but
mhm.
probably you're only doing the talks because it's going to lead to business.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you can certainly use the fun of giving a talk if you find it fun.
I
Part
do.
of the
I
conversation.
love being up on stage. Um,
I do too.
so
It took me a while to learn that, but
okay.
yeah. So you can maybe there's more than one motivation there. There's the motivation of it's going to be fun to do this talk. I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to the fun of it, and then there's also the motivation of it, and it could lead to business.
Okay, cool. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Is it? Do you
Yeah.
think that
It is. There's like little things that you said just cause little sparks in my brain,
good?
and yeah, like, and I was surprised because with the speaking, I mean, I love to speak, so you would think that would be enough, but as soon as you just said the gold, my brain went, ooh, wait,
Oh,
like, what the hell?
bold.
So,
I also just want to put out one other way of thinking about this, and that is some of my clients have had outcome goals
mhm,
and found them very stressful and
okay,
difficult. Like, I'm going to get my inbox to 0 every day, and then if it doesn't happen, then they're like, "I'm just gonna give up, it's not even worth trying."
mhm,
Right? And when they change their goal to, "I'm gonna spend 15 minutes at the end of every day working on reducing the number of emails in my inbox," it
okay,
became a task based instead of outcome based, and it became manageable. It wasn't as overwhelming, and it wasn't an all or nothing. And so they were able to, and if they missed a day, they only missed a day. They weren't giving up entirely, and they could pick it up and do it again the next day. So it's
okay,
possible that thinking about this task as I'm going to I only have to do it for 15 minutes.
mhm,
It's tedious and boring, but I only have to do it for 15 minutes. Um, can help you get started on it. And if you stop after 15 minutes, you're that much farther along. And
okay,
if after 15 minutes you say, it's not so bad, I'll keep going, then you can keep going. But sometimes just knowing that it's a limited quantity of time to work on it, and breaking it up into smaller pieces can help make it seem less ugh.
okay. So you're basically taking the failure out of it and just made it an experience.
Yeah.
I like that. We have someone not going to worry about the number of emails. That's not a goal. That's just a state of being. It's,
Well, I suppose that if you currently are worrying about it, you could have a goal of not worrying about it. I myself am never going to have a goal of getting 0 emails in my inbox. It's not how it does. It's not a realistic goal for me.
okay, cool. I like that. That actually is a wonderful reframing when you say don't have the goal, just have the task. That I know a lot of people are in that state of I hate failure. And even if it's like a small failure, they're going to push against it. But if it's just like, oh, I'm just going to remove some emails, it's just something to do.
Right.
Yeah. So if I just do a few of the talks, apply for a few of the talks, it's just something to do.
Right.
Okay, she's arguing with me now. It absolutely could be a goal. Okay.
All right, that's fair.
All right. Cool. All right. So are you open to being coached?
Sure.
Okay. So we're going to take a 2-minute break, 2-minute commercial break. And then I'm going to coach Talia. And have you ever watched me coach before?
I have.
Okay. So this won't be a big shock and surprise to you. We're just going to go into it.
Okay.
All right. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing. Healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
All right, we are back. And okay. Oh, look, we got more advertising in the comments. All right, so Talia.
Yes.
What would you like to work on?
Okay. I have seen my clients get results. I believe that both when I do coaching for productivity around procrastination, and also when I work with people around the creativity and the building confidence there, both prongs, I've seen them work. Somehow I can't figure out that it's going to work for people in business as well, in like corporations, as well as for individuals.
Okay.
I have some kind of story going on around marketing to corporations is a whole different thing, and I have to solve all their problems, and I can't just come in there and help people be more productive. Like, I get stuck. So yeah, I want to talk about that.
Okay. Why do you feel you have to solve all of their problems?
It's a really good question. I'm not sure. I somehow feel like something about corporations being more formal, and like they won't want to invest in something as intangible as creativity, but productivity is pretty tangible, and people talk a lot about wanting innovation and resilience in their workers, but somehow I feel like I have to have a promise that's going to help the corporation as a whole, rather than helping the individuals in the corporation, as though corporations aren't made up of people.
I know. And according to the United States, corporations are people. So
they're not people I can coach.
Okay. Uh, this, yeah, there's so much energy around this one.
I know.
But the one thing that's really coming up is, are you allowed to have fun in a corporation?
Oh, I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's one of the big things that's just pulling you back here. And speaking of which, someone's like, this is a fun episode. Okay.
I bring the fun. I mean, I know that the work that I do is fun and helps people have fun and
Mhm.
helps open up possibility through having fun. But no,
Okay.
I don't believe that fun has a place in corporations.
Okay. And that's your story.
That's my story.
And having been in the corporate world, I know that several times when they wanted us to learn something, they took us to workshops, to retreats where we had fun, because you learn more when you're enjoying yourself. So, are you willing to step out of your story that you're not allowed to have fun when working with corporations? Ow, there is so much resistance there.
Why?
Okay, who taught you this? This isn't even yours. Who taught you that you're not allowed to have fun in a corporation?
You know, I feel like it's been a lifelong unlearning to even get to this level of having fun. That
Mm,
somehow there's always been this message that the work world is serious and I have to be serious, and the only way anyone will hire me is if everything is serious, and like it's from
okay,
parents, it's from society, it's from teachers, it's from all of this. Like
all right. So, and let's see if it goes even further back. Are you allowed to have fun as an adult?
Yeah, I think so.
So I think so is a no. Right?
Yeah, there's a way that I feel like being an adult means being serious.
Okay.
When I talk about adulting, it's like doing chores and getting shit done that I don't want to have to do. It's not fun. It's all
Okay.
the not fun stuff.
Okay. So are you willing to step out of that story that being adult is always serious?
Oh God, I want to step out of that story.
I want to is not a yes. We got to get your mind here, make that big decision, stick to it. Are you willing to step out of the story that being adult is always serious?
Yes, I have experienced being an adult and having fun.
There we go.
Yeah.
Ooh. Are you willing to step out of the story that adults don't play games? Oh, actually, no. We'll just phrase it just a little bit differently. Are you willing to step out of the story that games are for kids?
Oh yeah. And not just games, but exploration and play and um, what if, not just for kids.
Okay. So are you willing to step out of the story that all of that is just for kids?
It's not. I am willing to step out of that story. That is not just for kids. That is for everybody.
Ooh. Okay. First of all, kudos for actually building a business around play and fun when that was running around in your subconscious. Right?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay. So now I think we can pull out to the corporations. Are you willing to step out of the story that you're not allowed to play games and have fun in corporations?
That still feels a little harder,
Mhm.
but I totally believe that corporations will allow their people to have fun when they step away from their desks and have an offsite.
Okay.
having fun on site that is a little harder for me to believe.
Okay. Is this from an experience you've been through?
I have not spent a lot of time in corporate, but I have spent some time in corporate, and it has reinforced that. Yes.
Okay. So are you willing to step out of the story of that corporate experience? That's what it's like for all corporations, and you're not allowed to have fun.
Yeah. Not all corporations are the same. Not every organization is going to be built the same. There's going to be room for everything.
Are you willing to step out of the story that the corporations you're going to want to work with won't want to have fun?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, the ones I want to work with are the ones that think that fun has a place in what they do.
Good.
Yeah, and I don't have to go rescue everybody.
Uh-oh. It's funny. Last night, and this is of course no coincidences. Uh, I saw an interview with Malcolm Gladwell,
Mhm.
and he was talking about how he's created this business, and everyone went home during COVID, and now he's having problems getting them back into the office. And he said, we want to build this environment where everyone feels like part of a team and they're accomplishing things together, and I think they can experience that more when they're here. But they all want to just keep working from home. And then he made a couple analogies, like sitting around in your underwear and stuff like that, to make it sort of picture like they're lazy when they're at home. And after the clip, one of the commentators said, so it wasn't to him, they would just talk about the clip afterwards. They said, if it was an environment of fun and joy and creativity, I'd be running back to work. But obviously, it's not that. Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there are plenty of ways to feel like a team and like you're accomplishing something together from home. I
Mhm.
mean, all of my creativity club is done on Zoom. I have people from different continents coming in, and we all feel like we're part of a
Yeah.
group, pretty cohesive group. So yeah, it doesn't have to be in person to get that feeling of camaraderie.
Yep. Yeah. Even here at the Breakthrough Show Network, I mean, we've got multiple shows on the network, but it's one team, one family. And we even, like, on Saturdays, we get together to have Saturday morning coffee online,
Like,
because that's just what we do.
yeah.
So knowing that that's the case, and knowing that that's who you can look for rather than to try to fit yourself into those corporations that don't want to have fun. How do you feel about working with corporations now?
Oh, I just felt my whole chest expand.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, that's possible.
Yeah.
I could find the ones that want the fun.
Yep. And based on how you promote yourself, the ones that want the fun are going to find you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that feels so much better.
Okay. So there's just one more thing that's coming up I want to clear. This is an important thing. This happens with a lot of people.
Okay.
Is responsibility.
Mhm.
So while that was weird echo. So while it kind of makes sense logically, if you're working with the company, then you're responsible for the results. You're not. You're responsible for giving them the tools, giving them the information, and facilitating. But if they don't want to get the results, that's on them. It's on the individuals, right? So you're just responsibility to give them the environment in which to get the best results they can. Most coaches are like, oh, I'm responsible for all my clients' results, and that makes everything a burden. It always feels heavy when it's responsibility. And that actually stops you from getting more clients because every client becomes a burden. So with that in mind, are you willing to step out of the story that you're responsible for the results of all your clients?
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
Thank you for bringing that one up.
You're welcome.
That was I hadn't thought of it, but it felt really important.
That's why I thought we should clear that just before we finish up today.
I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. So we're almost at the top of the hour. Do you have any? Okay. Before we get to that, I have, and this is in the show notes already. So Talia Dashow coaching.com. Is that the best way to reach you?
It is. It's got it has links to the Creativity Club and Gym. It has my social media links, my email, lots of ways to get a hold of me.
Okay. I've never tried to post a comment so that it shows up on the other channels, but we're going to try it now.
All right.
Okay, here we go. It's off.
Okay. Most of my business has been built on, let me try something and see what happens. So I'm okay with, let me try this and see what happens.
Cool. So you don't have to have a whole plan and everything mapped out and make sure. Oh.
It does not have to be perfect before you start.
All right. All right. All right. Is everyone listening to that? Yeah, it does not have to be perfect before you start. Okay. So yeah, people appreciate that. Any final words of wisdom to our audience?
I think I want to build on what I just said about not having to be perfect before you start and say you have an internal GPS that can't really activate until you start moving. If you're in a parking lot and you don't know which direction First Street is, your GPS on your car will tell you if you're going the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But you have to start driving some direction before it will tell you that you're driving the wrong way and give you new directions to get to First Street.
Yes.
And that's true with our businesses, with our lives, that if you're stuck in a place feeling like you have to know before you can move, you can't move. If you start moving, your intuition's going to say, yeah, no, this is not the right direction. And you can pivot. You're not committed to doing this thing forever just because you're moving in this direction. You're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. Let me try over this way. Right?
Sure.
But you have to move to be able to get that. So give it a try and see what happens.
That actually complements what I tell people a lot, is that for a lot of people that aren't moving, you're in a situation where you're in a car on one side of the city and you want to get to a destination on the other side of the city. And you're not going to start until you know you're going to hit every green light. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Oh, hell no. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we put those two together and then you just got to just get going. Just start moving. Yep. I like it. All right. And when we're talking, well, we're both talking about perfection, but apparently we were triggering someone.
These are really, really common things that people struggle with. Very human issues to have.
Damn, being human. All right. Well, Talia, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure. You really helped. Now,
thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And I'm going to have to go do that list after this show now.
Only 15 minutes worth.
I will do just a little bit and get that done. Thank you for that. That actually, it does feel lighter when you just think of it like that.
Good.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to head out, coming back next month with, I've got this listed somewhere here, Sally Reed. Hold on. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to have all this. But Sally Reed is a quantum alignment coach. So we're going to hear from her next month. I have no idea what quantum alignment is. As someone that deals with energy, I probably should know what that is. And now I'm just going to quickly read what's going on with the Breakthrough Show. Divine DNA, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, the Royal Council. Freedom starts now, Thursday at 1 p.m. And of course, the Breakthrough Show with Noel Herzog and Andrew Molinaro are guests for Tanzania. I don't know what Tanzania is. It's a place. Is it a band? It could be anything, but that's happening on Friday at 1 o'clock. That's all the stuff that's going on with the Breakthrough Show this week. Stay tuned for it. It's going to be exciting. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We are going to head out and with some music.